need an heir," Queen Astrid whispered, throwing gold coins at the beggar below, a desperate gesture from a desperate queen. He caught one mid-air, looked up. She froze. Those eyes, King Alaric's eyes. The man she'd poisoned 3 years ago stood in her courtyard, alive and smiling like a wolf. That night, he broke into her chambers. "You murdered me and stole my throne. Now you need an alpha mate to produce an heir. Lucky for you, I'm the only option. Let's make this interesting." Chapter 1. The gold coin struck the beggar's face with a sharp crack. He didn't flinch. His hand shot up, catching it midair with reflexes that made Queen Astrid's breath stop in her throat. She knew those reflexes. The beggar looked up at her window, and their eyes locked. Even through the dirt and scars, even across the distance, she saw it. Recognition slammed into her chest like a fist. Those eyes. She knew those eyes. "No," she whispered. "Impossible." The beggar smiled. It was the smile of a predator who just found his prey. Astrid stumbled back from the window, her heart hammering against her ribs. 3 years. It had been 3 years since she'd watched King Alaric Nightscar convulse on the floor, blood pouring from his mouth, dying from the poison she'd put in his wine. She'd watched them carry his body away, attended his funeral, taken his crown. He was dead. He had to be dead. But those eyes. A sound at her chamber door made her spin. It opened without a knock, and the beggar stepped inside. Up close he was worse. Scars crisscrossed his face and chest, his body lean and hard from years of hunger. But underneath the damage she saw him, the strong jaw, the aristocratic nose, the way he moved with lethal grace despite looking half-starved. "Hello, Astrid." His voice was rough, damaged, but unmistakably his. "Miss me?" She grabbed for the dagger in her vanity drawer. He was across the room before her fingers closed around the hilt, his hand clamping over hers, his body pressing her against the wall. "I wouldn't," he said softly. "We have so much to talk about, and it would be rude to stab me before we've had a proper reunion." "You're dead." Her voice came out strangled. "I killed you." "You tried. I'll give you credit for that. The poison was exceptional. I spent 3 days dying in the woods where your guards dumped my body. 3 days of agony while my alpha healing fought the toxin in my blood. Smile was terrible. But I survived. And I've spent the last 3 years watching you sit on my throne, wearing my crown, ruling my kingdom. Did you enjoy it? How did you? Why didn't you? She couldn't form complete thoughts. He was here, alive, touching her. Why didn't I expose you immediately? Alaric laughed without humor. Because I was barely alive for the first year. Because by the time I could walk without collapsing, you'd consolidated power so thoroughly that revealing myself would have triggered civil war. Because I wanted to understand why the brilliant Lady Astrid Ravenwood would commit murder for a throne. He leaned closer, his breath hot against her ear. So, I watched, and I learned something fascinating. "What?" The word came out as a whisper. "You're trapped. The council controls you. Geralt manipulates you. You killed a king and gained nothing but a prettier cage." He released her wrist and stepped back. "And now you have a bigger problem. You need an heir and you can't produce one. Can you, Astrid?" Her face went white. "How do you know that?" "Because I can smell it on you. Alpha blood. You're alpha, just like me. And alpha females can't conceive without an alpha mate." His smile turned cruel. "You killed the only alpha male in the kingdom. Congratulations, you played yourself." Rage exploded through her. Astrid's hand glowed with golden power as she shoved him away with supernatural strength. Get out before I finish what I started. You won't. Alaric straightened, completely unafraid of her power. Because I'm the only solution to your problem. The council is pushing you to marry, aren't they? Lord Casimir, probably. 50 years old, 3 dead wives, a reputation for cruelty. You marry him and you're dead within a year. They'll install a new puppet and you'll be forgotten. I'll find another way. There is no other way. His voice cracked like a whip. You need an alpha mate. I'm the only one available. So here's my offer. You give me shelter, food, time to fully recover my strength. In exchange, I'll give you your heir. We'll complete an alpha bond, produce a child, secure your throne. You're insane. But her strategic mind was already working, already seeing the horrible logic in his proposal. Probably. 3 years of eating garbage and sleeping in alleys will do that. He moved to her window, looking out at the kingdom below. But I'm also your only option. Unless you'd prefer to marry Casimir and hope he doesn't smother you in your sleep. Astrid's hands were shaking. This was impossible. Insane. The man she'd tried to murder was offering to father her child, to save her from the trap she'd built for herself. Why would you help me? I tried to kill you. I stole everything from you. Alaric turned, and something in his expression shifted. Less predator, more human. Because I spent 3 years hating you, and all it did was make me more broken than I already was. Because I watched you try to be a good queen despite the council's sabotage. Because you're trapped just like I was, and maybe we can free each other. That's not a reason. Then here's a better one. He crossed to her, moving slowly this time, giving her space to retreat if she wanted. She didn't. I'm lonely, Astrid. I've been lonely since the day I took the crown. I thought I could rule alone, be strong enough not to need anyone. But alphas aren't meant for isolation. We need our mates, need that bond, or we wither and die inside. You feel it too. I can see it in your eyes. She did. God's help her, she did. 3 years of being queen, and she'd never felt more alone. If I agree, she said slowly, if I take this insane bargain, what happens after? After I have the heir, do you reclaim your throne? Execute me for treason? What? I don't know. The honesty in his voice surprised her. Ask me again when we get there. But for now, we survive. Together. Deal? He extended his hand. Astrid stared at it. This was madness. Agreeing to this meant binding herself to the man she'd tried to murder, trusting him not to destroy her when he had every reason to want revenge. But the alternative was Casimir, was death, was losing everything she'd sacrificed so much to gain. She took his hand. The moment their skin touched, power exploded between them. Golden light spiraled up their joined hands, visible and blazing. Astrid gasped as she felt something fundamental shift inside her, like a missing piece sliding into place, like a wound she hadn't known she had suddenly beginning to heal. What is that? She breathed. Alpha recognition. Alaric's voice had gone rough with shock. True recognition. Our bloodlines aren't just compatible, they're complementary. Perfect matches. He tried to pull his hand away and couldn't. The light bound them together, refusing to release. Gods. We've just formed a partial alpha bond just from touching. What does that mean? It means we can't walk away from this now, even if we wanted to. Our natures have claimed each other. We're bound, Astrid. Incomplete, but bound. The bond will force us together, make us complete the mating whether we're ready or not. She should have been terrified. Instead, she felt relieved. The choice had been taken from them. No more agonizing, no more second-guessing. Just inevitable destiny pulling them forward. How long do we have? Days, maybe a week before the partial bond becomes painful. The golden light finally faded, but Astrid could still feel him. A warm presence at the edge of her consciousness, constant and undeniable. We need to prepare. There are rituals, components required to safely complete an alpha bonding. If we do this wrong, the magical backlash could kill us both. Then we'll do it right. She pulled her hand free, immediately missing the contact. There's a tower room in the east wing. No one uses it. You can stay there while we prepare. Generous of you letting me hide in my own palace. Our palace. The words came out before she could stop them. If we're really doing this, if we're bonding, then it stops being yours or mine. It becomes ours. Something shifted in his expression. Surprise, maybe, or hope. Ours. I like the sound of that. Don't get sentimental. This is practical, strategic, nothing more. Keep telling yourself that, but he was smiling as she led him toward the hidden passages that would take them to the tower. Behind them, in the courtyard below, Counselor Geralt watched the Queen's window with calculating eyes. Something had changed. He could feel it in the air, could sense a shift in power that made his political instincts scream warnings. The Queen was up to something, and Geralt intended to discover what before it destroyed everything he'd built. Chapter 2. 4 days later, Astrid stood in the council chamber trying not to murder everyone in the room. Lord Casimir has been extraordinarily patient, Your Majesty. Geralt's oily voice made her skin crawl. But even his patience has limits. He requires an answer to his marriage proposal by week's end, or he'll withdraw his offer and pursue other alliances. How tragic that would be. Astrid didn't bother hiding her sarcasm. Whatever would I do without the opportunity to become wife number 4 to a man who's buried 3 previous wives under suspicious circumstances? Several council members shifted uncomfortably. Lord Marwick cleared his throat. Your Majesty, while your concerns are noted, the kingdom does require an heir. 3 years without a succession plan is becoming untenable. The people are restless. Our enemies see weakness. Through her partial bond, Astrid felt Alaric's rage flare. He was in the tower room but connected to her consciousness, hearing everything through their link. Breathe, his voice whispered in her mind. Don't let them see you rattled. The mental communication still startled her, but she was learning to use it. Easy for you to say. You're not the one being sold to a murderer. No, I'm just the one who spent 3 years eating garbage because you poisoned me. We've both had rough years. Despite everything, she almost smiled. His dark humor was growing on her. Gentlemen, she said aloud, I appreciate your concern for the succession, which is why I'm pleased to inform you that the situation has been resolved. The room went silent. Geralt leaned forward, his eyes glittering with suspicion. Resolved, Your Majesty. How? I've completed an alpha bonding ritual. As of 3 days ago, I have a mate, an alpha mate, with a bloodline powerful enough to produce a viable heir. The explosion of noise was immediate. Everyone talked at once, demanding answers, asking questions, making accusations. Geralt's voice cut through the chaos. Who? Who is this mysterious mate? Why has he not been presented to the council? How do we know this bond is legitimate? The bond is legitimate. As for my mate's identity, he'll be revealed when the time is appropriate. For now, What matters is that I've fulfilled my duty to provide an heir. Any questions about my fitness to rule based on succession concerns are now irrelevant. Absolutely not, Geralt stood, his facade of politeness finally cracking. You can't claim to have a mate and then refuse to produce him. This could be a fabrication, a desperate attempt to avoid your responsibilities. The council demands proof. Through the bond, Astrid felt Alaric's amusement. He's terrified. He knows he's losing control of you. Should we tell them? Not yet. Let them panic for a few more days. Fear makes people sloppy. She wanted to argue, but his strategic instincts were sound. Lord Geralt, I understand your concern. However, I don't answer to the council. The council answers to me. You seem to have forgotten that in recent years. Consider this a reminder of the proper hierarchy. She let her alpha power flare, just enough to make every person in the room feel the weight of her authority. The golden glow around her hands left no doubt about her nature. This meeting is adjourned. I'll call another session when I deem it necessary. Until then, you're all dismissed. She swept from the chamber before anyone could protest, her heart racing but her expression calm. The moment she reached the corridor outside, she nearly ran toward the tower room. Alaric was waiting when she burst through the hidden door. He caught her as she stumbled, pulling her against his chest. That was magnificent, he murmured into her hair. You were terrifying and brilliant and absolutely queenly. I'm almost proud of you. Almost? Well, you did try to kill me. I'm not completely over that yet. She laughed despite herself, the sound borderline hysterical. They're going to investigate. Geralt won't rest until he knows who my mate is. We're running out of time. Good. Alaric tilted her face up, forcing her to meet his eyes. I'm tired of hiding, tired of being invisible while you fight alone. Let's accelerate the timeline. Complete the bond tonight. Announce my return tomorrow. Deal with the fallout together instead of separately. That's insane. The shock alone could trigger riots. Or it could shock everyone into compliance before they have time to organize resistance. We're both alphas, Astrid. Bonded alphas are nearly unstoppable. Together, we're strong enough to face whatever comes. She wanted to argue, wanted to list all the reasons this was a terrible idea, but the partial bond between them pulsed with certainty, with rightness, with the absolute knowledge that he was correct. Tonight, she agreed. We complete the bond tonight. His smile was fierce and beautiful. Then let's begin preparations. We'll need moonstone, silver thread, consecrated wine. I know what we need. I've been reading about alpha bonding rituals for 4 days. She pulled away from his embrace, suddenly nervous. Alaric, I need to tell you something. Before we do this, before the bond becomes permanent. I'm listening. I've never, with anyone. I kept myself pure for political marriage, and then I became queen, and there was never time or opportunity or anyone I trusted enough. So when we complete the bond, She gestured helplessly. I don't know what I'm doing. The vulnerability in her admission made her want to die, but Alaric just cupped her face gently, his scarred thumb stroking her cheekbones. Neither do I. Not really. I was so focused on being king that I never made time for intimacy or connection or any of the things that make us human rather than just rulers. So we'll figure it out together. The bond will guide us. It knows what we need better than we do. That's supposed to be reassuring. Not particularly, but it's honest. He pressed his forehead to hers, and she felt his nervousness through their connection, equal to her own, just better hidden. I'm terrified too, Astrid, of the vulnerability, of the permanence, of binding myself forever to someone I barely know, but I'm also certain that this is right. We're right. Together. Can you feel it? She could. Through the partial bond, she felt his certainty like sunlight, warming the cold fear in her chest. Yes. Then trust that. Trust us. Everything else we'll figure out as we go. He kissed her then, and it was nothing like the polite kisses she'd imagined as a girl dreaming of romance. It was fierce and desperate and honest. 3 years of loneliness colliding, 2 wounded souls reaching for each other with everything they had. When they broke apart, both breathing hard, Astrid saw her own wonder reflected in his eyes. "Tonight," she whispered. "Tonight," he agreed. "Everything changes." The ritual circle glowed in the darkness, moonstone dust painting silver-blue symbols across the tower room floor. Candles burned at the cardinal points, their flames steady despite the energy crackling through the air. Astrid stood at the circle's edge wearing nothing but a simple white dress, her hair unbound, her feet bare. Every instinct screamed at her to run, to protect herself, to maintain the walls she'd built so carefully over the years. But Alaric waited inside the circle, equally vulnerable in simple dark clothing, his scarred chest visible through the loose lacing, and through their partial bond, she felt his fear matching hers, his determination matching hers, his desperate need for connection that finally had a chance of being fulfilled. She stepped forward, the circle's energy wrapped around her like silk, welcoming her inside. Alaric took her hand, and power flared between them immediately. "Ready?" he asked. "No, but let's do it anyway." He smiled and picked up the silver thread, binding their wrists, together with swift, practiced movements. The thread glowed as it tightened, responding to their alpha nature. Astrid Ravenwood. His voice resonated with ancient power, speaking words passed down through alpha bloodlines for generations. "I claim you as mate, as partner, as the other half of my soul. I offer you my strength when yours fails, my clarity when doubt clouds your mind, my heart when yours breaks. I will stand with you against any threat, support you in any endeavor, love you through any trial. Do you accept this bond?" The words hung in the air, heavy with significance. Once she answered, there was no going back. They would be bound until death, for better or worse, through whatever came. Astrid looked into his eyes and saw everything, the pain he'd endured, the rage he still carried, the hope he was trying desperately to protect, the loneliness that matched her own. She saw him, truly saw him, maybe for the first time. "I accept." Her voice didn't shake. "Alaric, Nightscar, I claim you as mate, as partner, as the other half of my soul. I offer you my loyalty when betrayal surrounds you, my compassion when cruelty tempts you, my faith when doubt consumes you. I will stand with you against any threat, support you in any endeavor, love you through any trial." The moment the last word left her lips, the circle erupted. Golden light exploded outward, so bright Astrid had to close her eyes against it. The silver thread binding their wrists melted into their skin, becoming part of them, visible as glowing marks that traced up their arms and across their hearts. And then she felt it, Alaric's consciousness slamming into hers with the force of a tidal wave. Every wall she'd built, every defense, every carefully maintained secret, shattered under the onslaught of complete and total honesty. She felt his rage at her betrayal, visceral and burning and righteous. She felt his pain during the 3 years of exile, physical and emotional agony that nearly broke him. She felt his loneliness, so profound it made her own seem trivial. But she also felt his hope, his growing affection for her despite everything, his determination to make this work, to build something good from the ruins they'd created, his wonder at finally not being alone. And she knew, absolutely knew, that he felt everything in her fear and her ambition, and her desperate need to prove she was worth something, her guilt over the murder she'd committed, her terror at vulnerability, her hope that maybe, just maybe, they could make this work. No secrets, no lies, just raw, terrifying, beautiful truth. She heard herself crying out as the bond solidified, felt Alaric's arms catch her as they both sank to the floor, the energy wrapped around them, reshaping them, binding them on every level, physical, mental, emotional, spiritual. "I feel you," she gasped against his chest. "Everything. Your heartbeat like it's mine, your emotions like they're mine. God's. Is it always this intense? I don't know." His voice was rough, shaken. "But Astrid, we're not done yet. The bond won't stabilize until we complete it physically. That's what seals it permanently." She pulled back enough to meet his eyes, saw her own fear and wonder and desperate need reflected there. "Then seal it. I'm tired of being alone. Make us whole." He kissed her like drowning man finding air. She responded with equal desperation. 3 years of isolation and fear and loneliness pouring into it. Their hands fumbled at clothing, mouths seeking skin, the bond between them growing stronger with every touch. The consummation was not gentle. It was fire and fury and need, 2 souls crashing together, 2 bodies joining with enough force to reshape reality. Astrid felt herself breaking apart and reforming around Alaric's presence, felt her identity expanding to include him as he expanded to include her. When they finally joined completely, the bond snapped into place with such power that golden light exploded outward, racing through the palace, through the city, announcing their union to every alpha-blooded creature for miles. In the council chambers below, Geralt's wine glass shattered in his hand. In the barracks, alpha soldiers stopped mid-movement, feeling the echo of power. In the city streets, people looked up, wondering what had just happened. But in the tower room, Alaric and Astrid knew nothing beyond each other. They existed in a space outside time, where only the bond mattered, only their connection, only the incredible relief of finally not being alone. When coherent thought finally returned, they lay tangled together in the circle's center, both marked permanently by what they'd done. Silver lines traced intricate patterns across their skin, visible only to each other and anyone with alpha sight. The marks proclaimed them bonded, claimed, utterly connected. "Ours," Alaric whispered against her throat, alpha instinct making him possessive. "Ours," Astrid agreed, her nails digging into his back as aftershocks of power rippled through them both. "Not yours, not mine. Ours." He captured her mouth in another searing kiss, and she responded with equal hunger. The bond between them pulsed with satisfaction, with completion, with the deep rightness of 2 halves finally made whole. They made love twice more before the ritual energy finally faded, learning each other's bodies, testing the limits of their connection. By the time exhaustion finally claimed them, curled together in the circle's center, they were changed fundamentally. No longer enemies, no longer separate, just mates in every sense that mattered. And in the morning, They would change the kingdom. But for now, in the darkness, they simply held each other and marveled at what they'd become. Chapter 3. Astrid woke to someone pounding on her chamber door. She bolted upright, momentarily disoriented. She wasn't in her chambers. She was in the tower room, and Alaric was beside her, already awake and alert. The pounding came again, and through the bond she realized what she was hearing. Someone at her official chamber door, many floors below, but the bond had made her senses sharp enough to hear it anyway. "Your Majesty," Geralt's voice sharp with panic. "Your Majesty, you must come immediately. There's been an incident." Alaric's eyes met hers. They felt the bond energy. They know something happened. Then it's time. She stood, pulling on her discarded dress. "We tell them everything. Together." "You're sure?" She felt his concern through their connection, but also his pride in her courage. "I'm sure. No more hiding. We face this together or not at all." They dressed quickly, helping each other with laces and buttons, already moving with the unconscious coordination of bonded mates. The silver marks on their skin glowed faintly, visible even in daylight to anyone with magical sight. When they emerged from the tower and made their way to Astrid's chambers, they found half the council waiting in the corridor. Geralt spotted them first, and his eyes widened as he took in their joined hands, their matching bond marks, the way they moved in perfect synchronization. "Your Majesty." "What?" He stopped, his politician's brain clearly working overtime. "The energy surge last night. That was you? A bonding ritual?" "Yes." Astrid's voice was steady. "As I told you yesterday, I have a mate now, a true alpha mate. Our bond completed last night. But who?" Geralt's gaze shifted to Alaric, and Astrid watched the exact moment recognition hit. His face went white as fresh snow. "No, that's impossible. You're dead. We buried you. You saw what you wanted to see." Alaric stepped forward, and even in borrowed clothes, even still bearing scars, he radiated authority. "Lord Councillor Geralt, it's been a while. You look well. Regicide seems to agree with you." The corridor erupted in chaos. Guards reached for weapons. Council members shouted questions. Someone screamed. Through it all, Geralt stood frozen, his carefully maintained composure shattered completely. "Everyone quiet!" Astrid's alpha power flared, making the walls shake. Instant silence fell. "You want answers? Fine. Here's the truth. 3 years ago, Councillor Geralt convinced me to poison King Alaric. He provided the poison, arranged the cover-up, and helped me claim the throne. We all believed Alaric died, but he survived. Barely. He spent the last 3 years in exile, recovering, watching. 2 weeks ago, he revealed himself to me. We completed an alpha bonding ritual last night. We are now bonded mates, and as of this morning," she touched her stomach, already sensing the tiny spark of new life. "I'm carrying his child, the heir you've been demanding. Any questions?" The silence was deafening. Every face showed some combination of shock, horror, calculation, or fear, except Geralt, whose expression had gone carefully blank, always a dangerous sign. "This is treason," he said quietly. "You concealed the rightful king's survival. You bonded with him in secret. You've betrayed the council's trust." "The council's trust?" Alaric's laugh was cold. "The council that orchestrated my assassination? That trust? I'm curious, Geralt. Is your problem that I survived, or that you can't control me anymore?" "Guards!" Geralt's voice cracked like a whip. "Arrest them both. The queen for treason. The pretender for..." The guards didn't move. They stood frozen, caught between conflicting loyalties, staring at the bond marks that announced Alaric and Astrid's union to anyone with eyes. Lord Marwick spoke up, his voice shaky. "Lord Geralt, those are alpha bond marks, true bond marks. That can't be faked. If they're really bonded, and if that really is King Alaric. It's an illusion, a trick, some kind of magical manipulation." But Geralt's voice held desperation now. "Shall we prove it?" Alaric's smile was predatory. He took Astrid's hand, and their combined alpha power exploded outward in a column of golden light that shot through the palace ceiling, visible for miles. Every person in the corridor felt the energy wash over them. Pure, genuine, impossible to fake. When the light faded, Alaric and Astrid stood hand in hand, breathing hard but united. The bond marks on their skin blazed like brands, announcing their union to anyone still doubting. "That," Astrid said into the awed silence, "is an alpha bond. It cannot be faked. It cannot be broken. We are bonded until death, and our child, the heir you demanded, carries both our bloodlines, both our strengths. So the question isn't whether we're legitimate. The question is whether you're going to accept this reality, or force us to remove you from the council." Geralt's face had gone from white to purple. "You can't threaten the council. I helped you gain power. Without me, you'd still be a nobody noblewoman with no prospects." "And I'm grateful for that," Astrid said, her voice deceptively mild. "Which is why I'm giving you a choice. Support this transition. Help us present a united front to the kingdom. In exchange, you keep your position and your influence. Refuse, and we'll make sure everyone knows exactly what you did 3 years ago. How you manipulated me, how you provided the poison, how you orchestrated a coup for your own gain. That's blackmail. That's politics," Alaric corrected. "You taught Astrid well. She's simply using your own tactics against you. So what's it going to be, Geralt? Cooperation or exposure?" Through their bond, Astrid felt Alaric's readiness for violence, if Geralt chose wrong. She felt her own matching readiness, the predatory instincts of an alpha defending her mate and her position. Geralt looked between them, his mind clearly racing through options. Finally, his shoulders sagged in defeat. "What do you want from me?" "Support," Astrid said simply. "You're good at manipulating people, at crafting narratives. Use those skills to convince the other council members that Alaric's return is a blessing, not a crisis. Frame it as the kingdom gaining strength through our bond. Do that, and you keep your position. And if I refuse, then you join Lord Casimir in exile," Alaric said flatly, "along with anyone else who can't adapt to the new reality." "Casimir? What happened to—" "We had him arrested this morning," Astrid said. "Turns out there was substantial evidence linking him to his wives' deaths. He's being transported to the border as we speak. Consider it an early wedding gift from my mate to me." Geralt studied them both for a long moment. Through the bond, Astrid felt his calculations, felt him weighing options and finding them all wanting. Finally, he bowed. A real bow, without mockery. "Very well, your majesties. I will support this transition, but I want assurances, in writing, that my position remains secure. Done." Alaric produced a parchment he'd prepared the night before, planning ahead, always strategic. "Sign this, honor the agreement, and we'll honor it too. Betray us, and the evidence of your involvement in the coup becomes very public." Geralt signed without reading, which told Astrid everything about how thoroughly they'd backed him into a corner. He tucked the agreement into his robes and turned to the other council members, his politician's mask sliding back into place. "Gentlemen, it seems we've witnessed a miracle. King Alaric has returned to us, bonded to our queen, ready to rule alongside her. This is cause for celebration, not concern. The kingdom will be stronger for having 2 alpha rulers instead of 1. The other council members exchanged glances, clearly uncertain, but Lord Marweg, ambitious but not stupid, nodded slowly. "A bonded pair of alphas is unprecedented, but perhaps that's exactly what Elderwraith needs. Strength through unity, balance through partnership." "Precisely," Geralt seized on the support. "We should be celebrating this development, not questioning it. The succession is secured, the throne is stable, and our kingdom gains power through their bond." Astrid watched the political machinery turn, watched Geralt convince the others through sheer force of persuasive argument. It was impressive, actually, seeing him work without the constraints of truth or morality. No wonder he'd been so successful at manipulation. Within an hour, the council had been convinced, or at least convinced enough to offer public support. Privately, some would scheme and plot, but Astrid and Alaric would deal with those threats as they arose. For now, they had what they needed, enough support to make the public announcement without triggering immediate rebellion. That afternoon, they stood on the palace balcony, overlooking a courtyard packed with citizens. Word of the morning's events had spread through the capital like wildfire, and everyone wanted to see whether the rumors were true. Astrid looked out at the sea of faces and felt her pulse quicken. This was it, the moment that would define whether they succeeded or failed. Through the bond, she felt Alaric's steady calm, his absolute confidence in their strength together. "Ready?" his mental voice asked. "No, but let's do it anyway." She felt his amusement ripple through their connection, then his pride in her courage. "People of Elderwraith," her voice, magically amplified, carried to every ear. 3 years ago, we all believed King Alaric Nightscar died from an assassin's poison. The kingdom mourned. The council chose me to fill the void he left. I accepted that burden with the intention of serving you to the best of my abilities. The crowd was silent, hanging on every word. But King Alaric did not die. He survived, though gravely wounded. He spent these 3 years recovering, watching, learning. 2 weeks ago, he revealed himself to me, and we faced a choice. Fight over the throne, plunge Elderwraith into civil war, or find a different path. We chose partnership. We chose to unite our strengths rather than battle over power. She gestured to Alaric, who stepped forward. Even at this distance, even weathered by suffering, his presence was unmistakable. The crowd gasped, recognizing features they'd mourned. "I am Alaric Nightscar," he said, his voice resonating with power. "And I stand before you not to reclaim a throne, but to share it. Queen Astrid and I completed an alpha bonding ritual last night. We are mates now, bound until death, stronger together than we ever were apart. Our child, conceived through that sacred bond, will unite both our bloodlines and herald a new era for Elderwraith." "We propose something unprecedented," Astrid continued. "Not a single ruler, but 2 alpha-bonded co-regents sharing power, equally balancing each other's strengths and weaknesses. This is not about him reclaiming what was his, or me defending what I claimed. This is about building something new, a kingdom governed by partnership rather than isolation." She took Alaric's hand, and their combined alpha power flared in response. The bond marks on their skin blazed with golden light, visible to everyone. The energy washed over the crowd, making every person feel the truth of their connection. The crowd didn't erupt in cheers immediately, and that wasn't how people processed unprecedented change. Instead, Astrid watched faces shift from shock to calculation, to wonder, to cautious hope. Then someone in the back shouted, "Long live the king and queen!" Another voice picked it up, then another. Within moments, the chant spread through the crowd like wildfire. Long live King Alaric! Long live Queen Astrid! Long live the bonded rulers! Standing on the balcony, hand in hand with the man she'd tried to murder, Astrid felt something break open in her chest. Not breaking badly, breaking like dawn breaking, like winter breaking into spring. Relief, hope, the possibility of something better than what they'd known before. Through the bond, she felt Alaric's matching emotions, his wonder at acceptance rather than rejection, his hope for a future they'd build together, his fierce protectiveness toward her, and the life growing inside her. "We did it," she thought toward him. "We did," he agreed. "Now comes the hard part, actually ruling together without killing each other. Think we can manage? We survived attempted murder, exile, and forced bonding. Ruling a kingdom should be simple by comparison." She felt his amusement through their connection and couldn't help but smile. They were bonded mates, co-regents, expectant parents, and occasionally still enemies learning to be partners. It was messy and complicated, and nothing like what either of them had imagined. But it was theirs, and somehow that made it perfect. Chapter 4. 2 weeks later, Astrid stood in the council chamber trying not to vomit on Lord Marwick's expensive shoes. The morning sickness had started 3 days ago and showed no signs of stopping. "Your Majesty, are you quite well?" Marwick's concern seemed genuine, which was new. The bond between her and Alaric had shifted the entire court's attitude. People were treating her with respect, rather than barely concealed contempt. "I'm fine. Continue your report on the northern border negotiations." Through the bond, she felt Alaric's amusement. He was in another meeting across the palace, but his mental voice came through clearly. "You're turning green. Maybe admit you need a break." "I'm fine. You're about to vomit on a lord." "That's not fine. That's a diplomatic incident." She wanted to argue, but another wave of nausea hit. "Excuse me. Lord Marwick, we'll continue this later." She barely made it to her private chambers before losing the fight with her stomach. A moment later, strong hands pulled her hair back, and Alaric's soothing presence wrapped around her through the bond. "I thought you were in a meeting," she gasped between heaves. "I was. Then I felt your distress through the bond and decided you were more important than trade agreements." He handed her a damp cloth. "This is normal, apparently. Alpha pregnancies are harder than regular ones. The baby is already manifesting power, and your body has to adjust." "Wonderful. Months of this. Months of me holding your hair and telling you you're still beautiful even when you're vomiting. Consider it romantic." She laughed despite herself, then groaned as the movement made her stomach revolt again. "I hate this. I hate being weak." "You're not weak. You're creating life. That's the strongest thing anyone can do." He helped her to the bed, settling beside her with her head on his lap. "Rest. I'll handle the council meetings today." "We're supposed to rule together." "We are ruling together. Part of partnership is knowing when to let your mate carry the weight." His fingers stroked through her hair, soothing. "Besides, You've been carrying this kingdom alone for 3 years. Let me actually help for once." She wanted to argue, but exhaustion pulled at her. Through the bond, she felt his determination, his fierce protectiveness, his absolute certainty that she deserved rest. "I love you," she thought toward him, the realization sudden and overwhelming. "I don't know when it happened, but I do. I love you." His hand stilled in her hair. Through the bond, she felt his shock, then his wonder, then joy so profound it brought tears to both their eyes. "Say it again," he demanded mentally. "I love you. Despite everything, because of everything, I love you." He tilted her face up, and the kiss was gentle, different from their usual passion, softer and somehow more meaningful. "I love you too. Have for weeks, probably. Was just too afraid to say it first." The mighty Alpha King, afraid of feelings. The mighty Alpha King who spent 3 years eating garbage and watching the woman he was falling in love with sit on his throne, unable to do anything about it. "Yes, I'm afraid of feelings. Feelings are terrifying." But he was smiling as he said it. Astrid closed her eyes, letting herself relax into his touch. For the first time since taking the crown, she felt safe enough to be vulnerable, weak, human, because she had a partner who would be strong when she couldn't be. A sharp knock interrupted the moment. Geralt entered without waiting for permission. Bold, considering how close he'd come to exile. "Your Majesties, we have a problem. A big one." Alaric's hand moved instinctively to the dagger at his belt. "Explain." "Prince Ronan of Thornhaven has arrived, with an army. He's camped outside the city gates demanding an audience. Says he's here to investigate the legitimacy of the throne, on behalf of the Northern Alliance." Through the bond, Astrid felt Alaric's instant battle readiness. "How many soldiers?" 500. Not enough to take the city by force, but enough to be a serious threat if they decide to attack. Astrid struggled to sit up, fighting through the nausea. "Ronan, he's been wanting to expand Thornhaven's influence for years. He probably sees the chaos of our bonding as an opportunity." "Then, he's going to be disappointed." Alaric stood, his entire demeanor shifting from gentle mate to warrior king. "Geralt, have the city guard move to defensive positions. Nothing aggressive, but make it clear we're ready for hostility. Astrid and I will meet with Ronan in the main audience hall in 1 hour." "Your Majesty, Queen Astrid is unwell." "I'm pregnant, not dying," Astrid interrupted. "And I'm not letting some ambitious prince think he can intimidate us because I have morning sickness. Give me 30 minutes to make myself presentable." Geralt bowed and left. The moment he was gone, Alaric turned to her with concern clear in his eyes. You don't have to do this. I can handle Ronan alone. We rule together, remember? That means facing threats together." She stood on shaky legs, determination overriding physical discomfort. Besides, a bonded alpha pair is more intimidating than a single king. Let's remind Prince Ronan why it's a bad idea to threaten Eldoraith. An hour later, they stood on the dais in the audience hall, both dressed in full royal regalia. The bond marks on their skin glowed visibly, announcing their connection. Astrid's hand rested on Alaric's arm, partly for show, partly because she actually needed the support. Prince Ronan entered with a dozen guards, his handsome face arranged in an expression of false concern. He was young, ambitious, and dangerous, exactly the type of political predator Astrid had been dealing with for 3 years. "Your Majesties," his bow was perfunctory. "Or should I say, Your Majesty? I confess, The situation is unclear. We in Thornhaven heard rumors that King Alaric had returned from the dead, bonded to the woman who supposedly succeeded him. Naturally, we had to investigate. Investigate? Alaric's voice was cold. You bring 500 soldiers to investigate? That seems excessive, Prince Ronan. Protection, Your Majesty. The roads are dangerous these days. Surely you understand the need for security, given your own recent troubles. His smile didn't reach his eyes. I must say your survival is remarkable. We were all so saddened by news of your death 3 years ago. How did you manage to survive assassination? Alpha healing, and a strong desire not to let my murderers win. Alaric's hand found Astrid's, their fingers interlacing. But I didn't just survive. I found something better than the isolated rule I had before. Partnership, unity, strength through bonding. How romantic. Ronan's tone dripped sarcasm. And the queen? The woman who took your throne? You just forgave her? We found a path forward together, Astrid said, her voice steady despite the nausea still churning in her stomach. One that serves Elder Eighth better than either of us ruling alone. Our bond is genuine, our commitment absolute. The heir I carry unites both our bloodlines. Ronan's eyes narrowed. You're pregnant? Already? How convenient. The insult was deliberate. Through the bond, Astrid felt Alaric's rage flare, felt him preparing to defend her honor. She squeezed his hand, holding him back. Prince Ronan, she said sweetly, are you questioning the legitimacy of an alpha bond? Because we'd be happy to demonstrate. Again. That won't be necessary. I'm simply concerned about the stability of our neighboring kingdom. After all, if the throne is in dispute, if there's question about succession, Thornhaven may need to intervene. For the good of the region, of course. There is no dispute. Alaric's alpha power flared, making the air crackle. We rule together. Our bond is absolute. Our heir is legitimate. And any attempt to intervene in Elder Eighth's affairs will be considered an act of war. Are we clear? Perfectly clear. But Ronan's smile suggested he saw opportunity rather than threat. Though I wonder, how will your nobles react? How will the people respond to such an unprecedented arrangement? A king returned from death, bonded to his attempted murderer, claiming to rule in partnership. It's the stuff of scandal, Your Majesties. Scandal breeds instability, and instability invites intervention. He was threatening them, subtly but unmistakably. Astrid felt her own alpha power rising to meet Alaric's, their combined energy making the walls shake slightly. Prince Rona, she said, her voice dropping to something dangerous. You came here with 500 soldiers, hoping to find a weak kingdom ripe for conquest. Instead, you found 2 bonded alphas who are very protective of each other and very tired of political games. So here's what's going to happen. You're going to return to Thornhaven. You're going to tell the Northern Alliance that Elder Eighth is stronger than ever. And you're going to forget any ambitious plans you had about expanding your territory at our expense. And if I refuse, then we demonstrate exactly why bonded alphas are so feared. Alaric's smile was predatory. Your 500 soldiers against our entire city guard, plus 2 alphas who can level buildings with their combined power. The math isn't in your favor. Ronan's facade cracked slightly, revealing calculation beneath the confidence. You wouldn't risk open war with Thornhaven. The Northern Alliance would hesitate to support a prince who started a war he couldn't win, Astrid interrupted. Especially against 2 bonded alphas. We're a fairy tale, Prince Ronan. A romantic story about enemies who became lovers, about power shared rather than hoarded. People love stories like that. They won't love the prince who tried to destroy it. Through the bond she felt Alaric's approval, felt his pride in her strategic thinking. Together they were stronger than either had been alone, not just in power, but in perspective, in wisdom, in the balance they brought each other. Ronan looked between them, his mind clearly working through options. Finally, he bowed, deeper this time, with actual respect. Your Majesties make compelling arguments. Perhaps I was hasty in my concerns. Thornhaven is pleased to recognize your joint rule and wishes you both every happiness in your bonding. He straightened. With your permission, we'll depart in the morning. Permission granted, Alaric said. And Prince Ronan, tell the Northern Alliance that Elderath welcomes diplomatic relations, trade negotiations, cultural exchanges, all the boring, peaceful things that kingdoms do when they're not trying to conquer each other. We're open to partnership, but only with those who come in good faith. I'll convey the message. Ronan bowed again and left, his guards following. The moment the audience hall doors closed, Astrid's legs gave out. Alaric caught her, lowering them both to the dais steps, holding her against his chest. You were magnificent, Huon, he murmured, absolutely terrifying and brilliant and perfect. I'm going to vomit on your fancy coronation robes. They're just clothes. You're carrying our daughter. Vomit wherever you need to. Daughter? She looked up at him. How do you know it's a girl? I don't, but I'm hoping. A little girl with your intelligence and my stubbornness. We'll name her Prisma. We haven't discussed names. We are now. Prisma. It means most beautiful in the old tongue. What do you think? Through the bond, she felt his hope, his joy, his absolute love for a child they hadn't even met yet. It overwhelmed her with emotion. Prisma, she agreed. It's perfect. They sat together on the dais steps, the king and queen of Elder Oth, bonded mates, expecting their first child, having just averted a potential war through nothing but words and the power of their connection. We're actually doing this, Astrid said wonderingly, ruling together, building something new, making it work. We are, against all odds, against all reason, we're making it work. He kissed the top of her head. I love you, Astrid. I love our future, our daughter, the kingdom we're building together. I love that you tried to kill me and somehow became the best thing that ever happened to me. She laughed, the sound light with genuine joy. I love you too, even though you're annoyingly right about everything and insufferably noble and make me feel things I swore I'd never feel. That's what bonded mates do. Drive each other crazy and make each other better simultaneously. Lucky us. Lucky us, he agreed. And sitting there together in the empty audience hall, no longer enemies, no longer alone, just partners facing whatever came next. They both believed it. 6 months passed in a blur of council meetings, diplomatic negotiations, and Astrid's ever-expanding pregnancy. The kingdom adjusted to its bonded rulers faster than anyone expected. Turned out people genuinely liked the romantic story of enemies becoming lovers, of power shared rather than fought over. On a cold winter morning, Astrid went into labor. I'm going to kill you, she snarled at Alaric between contractions. I'm going to bring you back to life just so I can kill you again. This is your fault. Technically, it's both our faults, he said, holding her hand and trying not to wince as she crushed his fingers. We made this baby together. You're not the one pushing a whole human out of your body. You don't get credit." Through the bond, he felt her pain, excruciating, overwhelming, impossible to fully block out. But he also felt her determination, her fierce love for the child she hadn't even met yet, her absolute certainty that this agony would be worth it. "You're doing so well," the midwife encouraged. "Just a few more pushes, Your Majesty." "A few more? How many is a few? Because I'm pretty sure I've already pushed 1,000,000 times and—" Another contraction cut off her complaints. Alaric pressed his forehead to hers, letting his alpha power flow through their bond, trying to ease her suffering. "You're the strongest person I know. You survived attempted murder, political coups, and being bonded to me. You can do this. If this baby isn't perfect, I'm returning her and demanding a refund." He laughed despite the terror and awe and overwhelming emotion. "Deal. Though I think our daughter is going to be perfect regardless of—" Prisma's first cry filled the room, and everything else stopped mattering. The midwife placed the tiny, screaming bundle in Astrid's arms, and Alaric's world tilted on its axis. His daughter, their daughter, a perfect miracle of dark hair and angry alpha lungs, and tiny fists that already looked ready to fight. "She's beautiful," Astrid whispered, all her earlier rage forgotten. Tears streamed down her face as she stared at their child. "Alaric, look at her. She's perfect." He was crying too, he realized. The former Alpha King who'd survived assassination and exile and 3 years of suffering, reduced to tears by 8 pounds of indignant newborn. She is absolutely perfect. He touched Prisma's tiny hand, and she immediately gripped his finger with surprising strength. Through the bond, he felt Astrid's overwhelming love, felt it mix with his own, until he couldn't tell where his emotions ended and hers began. "We made this," Astrid said in wonder. "Two broken people who tried to destroy each other, and we made something this beautiful." "We made more than just her." Alaric gestured to the window, where early morning light painted Eldorath in shades of gold. "We made peace. We made partnership. We made a kingdom stronger than it was before, all because we chose each other over hatred." Prisma wailed again, demanding attention with the imperious attitude of someone born to rule. They laughed together, the sound full of joy and exhaustion and love so profound it hurt. "Welcome to the world, Prisma," Astrid murmured, kissing their daughter's forehead. "Your parents are a little crazy, and your conception story is deeply weird, but we promise to love you with everything we have." "And to teach you that revenge is overrated," Alaric added. "Partnership is better. Love is better. Choosing each other every day, even when it's hard, that's better than all the power in the world." Prisma stopped crying and looked up at her parents with eyes that already showed traces of gold. Alpha eyes, powerful and aware. She studied them with the seriousness of someone much older, as if she understood the weight of what they were promising. Then she yawned, decided they were acceptable, and fell asleep in her mother's arms. In the palace below, servants prepared announcements of the royal birth. In the council chambers, politicians plotted and planned and adjusted to the new reality. In the city streets, citizens celebrated the arrival of an heir who would unite bloodlines and secure the future. But in the royal chambers, the world narrowed to just 3 people, 2 former enemies who'd learned to love each other and the tiny life they'd created together. Astrid looked up at Alaric, seeing past the scars, past the king, to the man who'd offered her partnership when he had every right to demand revenge. "Thank you." "For what?" for seeing me, for believing I was worth saving even when I'd proven I wasn't, for building this with me. She gestured at their sleeping daughter, at the life they'd created together. For loving me enough to forgive the unforgivable. I could say the same to you. He kissed her gently. You gave me purpose when I had none. You taught me that strength comes from connection, not isolation. You made me better than I was alone. We made each other better. We did, and we'll keep doing it, every day for the rest of our lives. Prisma stirred in her sleep, her tiny hand reaching instinctively for her father's finger again. They watched her in awed silence, marveling at the miracle of new life, at the future stretching before them full of possibility. The Poison King and the Queen who tried to kill him, now bonded mates and new parents, guardians of a kingdom built on the impossible foundation of love, grown from ashes. It was messy and complicated and nothing like what either of them had planned, but it was theirs, and that made it perfect. The end. If you loved this story, please hit that like button and subscribe. I'm going to be completely honest with you. I'm at 600 subscribers and stuck. I'm working so hard to bring you quality stories every week, and I'm so close to monetization. Every like, every comment, every subscription literally changes my life and lets me keep creating content for you. So if this story made you feel something, if you got invested in Astrid and Alaric's journey, please take 2 seconds to subscribe. It's free. It helps me massively, and you'll never miss a story. Thank you from the bottom of my heart. Now tell me in the comments, what did you think of this story? See you next time.